When discussing men's health, many still associate it with concepts like muscles, hormones, and performance. However, a topic remains on the periphery, whispered with shame, disregarded with callousness, or even defended with an air of utter normality: masturbation, particularly when coupled with constant pornography consumption. The truth is, we are facing a phenomenon that transcends a mere act of solitary pleasure. It is a behavior that, depending on its execution, can directly influence your self-esteem, your energy levels, your emotional connection with the world, and your ability to form profound, intimate bonds. It's not uncommon to hear accounts of men between 25 and 50 years old experiencing a growing emotional apathy, a decline in work motivation, concentration difficulties, and even relationship conflicts, all seemingly without a specific cause. However, when we delve deeper into the personal habits of these men, a pattern emerges: the daily and repetitive consumption of pornographic content coupled with uncontrolled masturbation. The issue isn't inherent to the act itself, but rather the frequency, the dependency it cultivates, and the impact it begins to have on the perception of pleasure and reward within the male brain. In essence, the human brain is wired to seek out rewards. And when you associate an extreme visual stimulus, as is the case with highly produced pornographic videos, with the immediate relief of orgasm, you are essentially training your neurological system to respond solely to that type of stimulation, rendering it desensitized to the genuine experiences of real life. Gradually, the touch of a partner no longer elicits the same reaction, flirting becomes unappealing, sexual relations lose intensity, and even libido can diminish. This occurs because you have cultivated an artificial dopamine production factory within yourself, and you become addicted to it. What begins as a fleeting relief from stress or an attempt to combat boredom can rapidly escalate into emotional and physical dependence. Many men experiencing this predicament often fail to recognize they are trapped in a vicious cycle. They repeat the behavior automatically. As part of their routine, they arrive home, lock the door, access an adult website, and surrender to a fantasy that, in that moment, feels more comforting than reality itself. The problem is that this repetition weakens the psychic muscles responsible for impulse control, and the more you practice, the less control you feel. There comes a point where pleasure ceases to be pleasure and transforms into an obligation. Man finds himself seeking increasingly extreme stimuli, increasingly bizarre videos, and yet he cannot achieve the same level of excitement he felt at the beginning. He begins to feel guilt, shame, and a strange sensation of betraying himself, particularly when this habit interferes with time spent with a partner or with concentration at work. In this context, pornography becomes an emotional crutch, an escape from unresolved problems, an illusion of control that only amplifies the lack of control. It is at this juncture that we must pause and look inward. Perhaps you, dear viewer, have found resonance in some aspect of this video thus far. If so, I invite you to engage in a manner unconventional to what you may typically encounter. Share in the comments how this subject resonates with you. Unburdened by judgment, free from shame, should you prefer to use a pseudonym, by all means. The aim is to cultivate a genuine space of exchange among men who earnestly seek self-improvement, not through external coercion, but by their own volition. Take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel, but do so not merely for the sake of supporting the content, but to ensure you continue reflecting with us on topics that others shy away from. The button awaits your click. Neuroscience clearly explains what happens when you repeatedly expose your brain to pornographic stimuli. The nucleus accumbens, a region responsible for the sensation of reward, begins to adapt to this new pattern, requiring progressively more dopamine to feel the same level of pleasure. It's analogous to drug addiction. What was sufficient before now proves inadequate. This has a direct impact on daily life. Men who previously exhibited robust sexual performance may suddenly encounter erectile dysfunction without an organic cause, experience unexpected premature ejaculation, or simply display a diminished interest in physical intimacy with their partner. Furthermore, there's the emotional factor. The excessive consumption of pornography can lead to performance anxiety, a growing insecurity about not being able to measure up to the unrealistic depictions portrayed in videos. This breeds frustration, isolation, and a persistent feeling of inadequacy. And even when sexual desire exists, it becomes tainted by the expectation of something unattainable. The real person, with their sense, gestures, and pauses, simply cannot compete with a meticulously choreographed montage designed to last precisely the duration of one's pleasure. But the good news is that there is a solution to this. Gradually reducing consumption, seeking genuine connections, investing in dialogue, intimacy, and self-care are powerful pathways to recover emotional and sexual sensitivity. There's no need to stop cold turkey, but it does require awareness and action. The first step is to admit, yes, I am overdoing it. The second is to seek help, whether from a sex therapist, a psychological counselor, or even by confiding in trusted individuals about this. Silence is the greatest ally of addiction. Speech, the greatest instrument of liberation. Excessive consumption of pornography and compulsive masturbation frequently lead to distinct physical symptoms: inexplicable fatigue, recurring headaches, diminished physical performance during workouts, insomnia or poor sleep quality, constant irritability, a sense of apathy, and even episodes of depressive despondency. The body begins to signal that it is out of balance. What's worse, many men ignore these signs, attributing them to a mere phase or everyday fatigue. Beyond the physical manifest, there's the emotional toll. Procrastination intensifies, motivation dwindles, and even activities that were once sources of joy, such as reading, socializing, or engaging in sports, lose their allure. It's as if the brain becomes fixated on a singular type of stimulation, rendering the rest of life bland and uninspiring. This cultivates a silent, existential void, which many attempt to fill with further stimulation, perpetuating a vicious cycle that becomes increasingly challenging to break free from. The key here is, the earlier you recognize these signs and decide to take action, the less severe the consequences will be. Recovery time varies from person to person, but regaining control is possible. Sometimes, simply limiting access to websites provides significant relief. In other instances, more in-depth professional intervention is necessary. The crucial point is not to normalize addiction or feel like you're the only one experiencing this. You are not alone. Perhaps the greatest challenge men face today is not dealing with sex itself, but with the distorted way it has been presented to them since their youth. Movies, websites, conversations with friends. All of this has created a notion of sexuality far removed from reality, based on performance, quantity, and aesthetic perfection. The problem is that, in pursuing this compulsively, men distance themselves from their own essence, the pleasure of being with someone genuinely, the sensitivity of touch, the emotional connection, and self-care. The good news is that there is a growing movement of men awakening to this awareness. Men who have realized they don't have to be slaves to artificial stimulation, who are willing to build more authentic relationships, who understand that pleasure is not just physical release, it's also connection, presence, surrender. If you've made it this far, it's because something within you is poised for this transformation. So now, I have a direct and heartfelt request. If this content resonated with some crucial aspect of your life, if it prompted you to reconsider your habits or even unveiled a fresh perspective on your emotional and sexual well-being, subscribe to the channel right now. But beyond that, share your story with us in the comments. Tell us, what did you glean from this video? Have you ever gone through a similar experience? How did you navigate it? Or are you still searching for a way out? Let's build a strong, honest, and supportive community where sharing experiences is an integral part of healing. Your story could be the turning point for someone else.